The spit hit her cheek before she even registered what had happened. Naomi Carter stood frozen in the middle of Bella Notte, New York's most exclusive Italian restaurant, her tray trembling in her hands as warm saliva slowly dripped down her face. Around her, the dining room had fallen into suffocating silence. Crystal chandeliers cast their elegant glow over tables draped in white linen, where patrons sat motionless, forks suspended mid-air, conversations died on their lips. "That's what happens when incompetent help wastes my time," Richard Pemberton III announced, his voice dripping with contempt as he dabbed his mouth with a napkin. The billionaire real estate mogul leaned back in his chair, his tailored suit probably worth more than Naomi made in 6 months. 20 minutes for a simple order? In my restaurants, you'd be fired and escorted out by security." Naomi's hand moved slowly to her face, her fingers coming away wet. Her breath caught in her throat, not from fear but from the effort it took to contain the storm building inside her. She had endured racism before, subtle glances, condescending tones, being followed in stores, but never this. Never something so deliberately dehumanizing. What Richard Pemberton III didn't know, couldn't possibly know as he smirked at her humiliation, was that the phone in her apron pocket held a single number on speed dial. A number that connected directly to the most dangerous man in New York's underworld, a man who would burn the entire city down for her. 6 months earlier, Naomi Carter's life had been defined by a simple routine: wake up at 5 a.m., check on her mother, take 2 trains to reach Bella Notte by 6:30 for the breakfast shift, work until 2 p.m., rush to her evening job at a hotel bar, return home by midnight, collapse into bed, and repeat. It wasn't glamorous, but it was honest work. And honest work was all she had ever known. The morning Jinwoo first walked into Bella Notte, Naomi had been balancing 4 plates on her arms while simultaneously taking an order from table 7. Her natural hair was pulled back into a neat bun, her uniform pressed despite being 3 years old, and her smile, though tired, remained genuine. She took pride in her work, even when her feet ached and her body begged for rest. "I'll be right with you, sir," she called over her shoulder to the man who had just been seated in her section, not bothering to look up as she delivered the plates with practiced efficiency. When she finally turned to greet him, her breath caught. Park Jin-woo sat alone at table 12, his presence commanding attention despite his stillness. He wore a black suit that fit him like it had been crafted specifically for his body, which it had, and his dark eyes tracked her movement with an intensity that made her skin prickle. His black hair was styled with careful precision, and there was something about the way he held himself, the angle of his jaw, the steadiness of his gaze, that spoke of power. Naomi approached with her notepad, determined not to be intimidated. She had served plenty of wealthy customers before. "Good morning. Welcome to Bella Notte. Can I start you off with something to drink?" "Coffee, black." His voice was deep, accented, each word deliberate. "Of course. And have you had a chance to look at the menu, or would you like a few more minutes?" Jinwoo's eyes hadn't left her face. "You've worked here long?" The question caught her off guard. Customers rarely engaged beyond placing orders. 3 years. "You're good at your job." It wasn't a question, and something about the way he said it, clinical, observational, made her feel exposed. "Thank you. I'll get that coffee for you." She retreated to the service station, aware of his gaze following her. Jazz, her best friend and fellow server, sidled up beside her. "Girl, who is that fine man at table 12? He hasn't taken his eyes off you since he sat down." "I don't know and I don't care," Naomi replied, pouring the coffee with steady hands. "He's just another customer." Just another customer who looks like he could buy this entire restaurant and everyone in it." Naomi returned to his table, setting the coffee down carefully. "Have you decided on breakfast?" "The frittata, and your name." "Excuse me?" "Your name isn't on your uniform." He gestured to her name tag, which had fallen off 2 weeks ago and never been replaced. "I'd like to know it." Professional boundaries screamed at her to deflect, but something in his directness, in the way he asked as if he had every right to know, made her answer honestly. "Naomi. Naomi." He repeated it slowly, as if testing how it felt. "I'm Jinwoo." "It's nice to meet you, Mr. Jinwoo. I'll get your order in right away." "Just Jinwoo." Over the following weeks, Jinwoo became a regular fixture at table 12. He always arrived at the same time, always ordered variations of breakfast or lunch, always left exactly 30% tip, and always watched her with that same unsettling intensity. He rarely spoke beyond his orders, but his presence became something she found herself anticipating, though she would never admit it aloud. "He's here again," Jazz would sing-song whenever Jinwoo walked through the door. "Your mysterious admirer." "He's not my admirer. He's just a regular customer." "Naomi, honey, regular customers don't look at servers like they're trying to memorize their entire existence." But Jazz didn't understand, couldn't understand, that men who looked like Jinwoo, who carried themselves with that level of wealth and power, didn't seriously pursue women like her. Naomi had learned long ago to recognize her place in the world's hierarchy. She was a 26-year-old waitress with 2 jobs, a sick mother, and a younger brother depending on her to help pay for college. Men like Jinwoo existed in a different stratosphere entirely. One Tuesday morning, everything changed. Naomi was refilling Jinwoo's coffee when her phone buzzed in her apron. She glanced at it reflexively and felt her stomach drop. Marcus. Her brother never called during her shift unless it was an emergency. "Excuse me," she murmured, stepping away to answer. "Marcus, what's wrong?" "It's Mom." Her brother's voice cracked. "She collapsed. The ambulance is taking her to Mount Sinai. Naomi, they're saying it might be her heart." The world tilted. "I'm coming. I'm leaving right now." She ended the call with shaking hands, her mind already calculating. She'd need to tell Antonio she was leaving. She'd need to get to the hospital. She'd need to figure out how they'd pay for whatever treatment her mother needed. She'd need to... Naomi. She spun to find Jinwoo standing directly behind her, having moved with a silence that should have been impossible for a man his size. Up close, she could see the sharp angles of his face, smell the expensive cologne that clung to his skin. "I have to go," she said quickly, moving past him. "Family emergency." His hand caught her wrist, not roughly, but firmly enough to stop her. The touch sent electricity racing up her arm. "What happened?" "My mother. Hospital. I really have to... I'll take you." "What?" "No, I'll catch the subway. The subway will take 40 minutes. My car is outside." His tone left no room for argument. He was already guiding her toward the door, his hand shifting from her wrist to the small of her back. "Where?" "Mount Sinai, but you don't have to... I know where it is." Antonio looked up from the kitchen as they passed, his eyes widening at the sight of Jinwoo escorting Naomi out, but he said nothing. Something in Jinwoo's expression apparently communicated that interference would be unwise. The black Mercedes waiting at the curb was worth more than Naomi would make in 5 years. The driver, a man with sharp eyes and an earpiece, opened the back door without being asked. Jinwoo ushered her inside before sliding in beside her. "Mount Sinai," he told the driver in Korean. "Quickly." As the car pulled smoothly into traffic, Naomi found her voice. "Why are you doing this?" Jinwoo turned those dark eyes on her. "You needed help, I provided it. You don't even know me." "I know enough." The certainty in his voice should have frightened her. Instead, it wrapped around her like a safety net she hadn't known she needed. As the city blurred past the windows, Naomi felt the careful walls she'd built around herself begin to crack. She had no idea that the man sitting beside her, watching her with such intensity, controlled half of New York's underworld. That his organization moved millions in illegal operations. That he had killed men with his bare hands. That his name was whispered with fear in certain circles. All she knew was that when the world fell apart, he had been there to catch her. And Park Jinwoo, who prided himself on never acting without calculation, had no explanation for why this woman, this waitress with tired eyes and a brilliant smile, had become the center of his entire universe in the span of 6 weeks. The car sped toward Mount Sinai, carrying them both toward a future neither could have predicted. Mount Sinai's emergency room was a controlled chaos of beeping monitors, hurrying staff, and the sharp antiseptic smell that Naomi had come to associate with fear. She burst through the automatic doors with Jinwoo a silent shadow at her side, his presence somehow parting the crowd like Moses and the Red Sea. Marcus stood near the registration desk, his lanky 19-year-old frame hunched with worry. When he saw Naomi, relief flooded his face. Naomi, they took her back for tests. They're saying it's cardiac arrest, but she's stable now. They won't let me see her yet. Naomi pulled her brother into a fierce hug, feeling him tremble against her. It's okay, we're here now. Mom's strong, she'll be fine. Over Marcus's shoulder, she saw Jin Woo speaking quietly on his phone in Korean, his expression unreadable. When he ended the call, he approached them with measured steps. Marcus, this is Jin Woo, Naomi said, suddenly aware of how little she actually knew about the man who had dropped everything to bring her here. He gave me a ride. Marcus extended his hand automatically. Thank you, man. I appreciate you looking out for my sister. Jin Woo's handshake was firm but brief. She needed to be here, it was nothing. Miss Carter? A doctor in blue scrubs approached, clipboard in hand. I'm Dr. Sarah Kim. Your mother is stable, but I need to discuss her condition with you. The next 20 minutes passed in a blur of medical terminology that boiled down to a simple, devastating truth. Gloria Carter had suffered a significant cardiac event. She would need surgery, a coronary bypass, and even with insurance, the out-of-pocket costs would be astronomical, somewhere in the realm of $40,000. $40,000 that Naomi didn't have. We can schedule the surgery for next month, Dr. Kim was saying gently, her eyes kind behind wire-rimmed glasses. That should give you time to explore financial assistance programs, payment plans. Next month, Naomi's voice cracked. What are the risks of waiting that long? Dr. Kim's pause said everything. There are always risks with cardiac patients. The sooner we operate, the better her chances. After the doctor left, Naomi sank into one of the uncomfortable plastic chairs, her mind spinning. Marcus sat beside her, his head in his hands. They sat in silence for long minutes, the weight of their impossible situation pressing down on them. I can help. Naomi's head snapped up. She had almost forgotten Jin Woo was still there, standing a respectful distance away but clearly having heard everything. What? The surgery, the costs. I can help. That's... No, absolutely not. Naomi stood abruptly. I don't even know you. I can't accept that kind of money from a stranger. Then don't think of it as acceptance. Think of it as a loan. A loan I could never repay. Something flickered in Jin Woo's eyes. Amusement, perhaps, or admiration for her stubbornness. How you could work for me? Work for you? Doing what? I own several businesses. I always need reliable people. He said it smoothly, the half-truth sliding off his tongue with practiced ease. What he didn't say was that those businesses were fronts, that the work he was offering her would keep her far from the dangerous realities of his world, that he wanted her close for reasons he couldn't fully articulate, even to himself. I already have 2 jobs. Quit them. Work for me exclusively. Better pay, better hours, and the debt for your mother's surgery will be paid off through your salary over time. It was too good to be true. Naomi's instincts screamed that people didn't simply offer solutions to $40,000 problems out of kindness. Why would you do this? Jin Woo stepped closer, and Naomi caught the subtle scent of his cologne again, something expensive and dark. Because I can, and because you need help. Those are sufficient reasons. There's always a catch. No catch, just honest work for honest pay. The lie tasted bitter on his tongue, but Jin Woo told himself it wasn't truly a lie. She would be working honestly. He would simply ensure she never knew the full scope of what his organization truly did. Marcus looked between them, his young face torn between hope and skepticism. Naomi, maybe you should consider it. Mom needs that surgery. Marcus, I'm not saying trust him completely, her brother continued quietly. But if he's serious and if there's a real job offer, maybe it's worth exploring. We don't exactly have a lot of options. Naomi closed her eyes, feeling the weight of responsibility that had been her constant companion since their father died 8 years ago. She had been 18 then, forced to become an adult overnight, to be both sister and parent to Marcus while caring for their grieving mother. She had sacrificed her college dreams, her social life, any chance at the normal experiences people her age took for granted. And now, here was this mysterious, intense man offering her a lifeline. It terrified her how desperately she wanted to take it. I need to think about it, she finally said. Of course. Jin Woo reached into his jacket and produced a business card. Heavy stock, minimalist design, just a name and phone number. Call me when you decide. In the meantime, he turned to the registration desk, where a nervous-looking administrator had been watching their exchange. I need to speak with hospital billing about Gloria Carter's account. Sir, I'm not sure. Jin Woo said something in rapid Korean to the man who had been his driver, who immediately stepped forward and spoke quietly to the administrator. Whatever was said made the woman's eyes widen before she nodded quickly and picked up her phone. What did you do? Naomi demanded. I've arranged for your mother's surgery to be scheduled as soon as she's stable enough for the procedure. Tomorrow morning, if Dr. Kim approves, the hospital will bill me directly. You can't just... I can, and I have. Jin Woo's tone was final. Your mother needs surgery. You can argue with me about repayment later, but right now her health is what matters. Do you disagree? Naomi wanted to argue, wanted to maintain her pride and independence, but the image of her mother's face, lined with age and hardship, but still beautiful, still strong, rose in her mind. No, she whispered. I don't disagree. Then it's settled. Jin Woo's expression softened almost imperceptibly. I'll leave you with your family. Call me. He turned to leave, and Naomi found herself calling after him before she could stop herself. Jin Woo. He paused, looking back over his shoulder. Thank you, really. I don't understand why you're doing this, but thank you. Something indefinable passed across his face, a crack in his carefully maintained armor. You don't need to understand yet, Naomi. You just need to trust that I won't hurt you. Then he was gone, his driver following, leaving Naomi standing in the emergency room with a business card clutched in her hand and the feeling that her entire life had just shifted on its axis. That was intense, Marcus said quietly. Yeah. Are you going to take the job? Naomi stared at the card. Park Jin-woo. The name sounded foreign on her tongue, as mysterious as the man himself. I don't know. Maybe. Probably. She laughed without humor. I don't really have a choice, do I? There's always a choice, sis, but sometimes the right choice is the one that scares us. Later that night, after they'd been allowed to see their mother, pale and hooked to monitors but alive, after Marcus had gone home to get some rest, after Naomi had settled into the uncomfortable chair beside her mother's bed to keep vigil, she pulled out Jin Woo's card again. In the dim light of the hospital room, with only the steady beep of the heart monitor for company, Naomi made her decision. She would call him in the morning. She would take the job, whatever it was. She would step into Jin Woo's world, not knowing that it was a world of violence and power, of blood debts and territorial wars, of loyalty unto death. All she knew was that when she had been drowning, he had thrown her a rope. What she didn't know was that Park Jin-woo had been drowning too in a different way, for far longer than 6 weeks. That from the moment he had first seen her, competent and kind, tired but unbroken, serving coffee with dignity and grace, something in his carefully controlled world had cracked wide open. He had built an empire on ruthlessness, had made decisions that cost lives without losing sleep, had accepted that he would die as he had lived, alone, powerful, and ultimately hollow. Then Naomi Carter had smiled at him while pouring coffee, and suddenly Jin-woo understood what it meant to want something more than power. He wanted her safety, her happiness, her presence in his life, and what Park Jin-woo wanted, he took. But this time, he would have to be patient. This time, he would have to earn it. Naomi's new job began on a Monday morning in a high-rise office building in Midtown Manhattan. The elevator required a keycard to access the top 3 floors, and when the doors opened on the 30th level, she stepped into a space that screamed understated wealth, polished marble floors, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city, modern art that probably cost more than her annual salary. Kim Tae-yang met her in the reception area, his sharp suit and sharper eyes assessing her in seconds. Miss Carter, welcome. I'm Tae-yang, Mr. Park's executive assistant. He's asked me to help you get oriented. Thank you. Naomi adjusted her simple black dress, the most professional outfit she owned, purchased specifically for this day. I appreciate the opportunity. Your role will be straightforward, Tae-yang explained as he led her down a hallway lined with closed doors. Mr. Park owns multiple legitimate businesses, real estate holdings, import-export operations, several restaurants. You'll be managing his personal schedule, coordinating meetings, handling correspondence. Think of yourself as his personal liaison for his civilian business interests. Civilian business interests. The phrase stuck with Naomi, implying there were other interests that weren't civilian. She filed the observation away. Taiyang showed her to an office adjacent to what was clearly Jinwoo's. She could see through the glass walls into a space that was all clean lines and minimalist furniture, dominated by a massive desk and the breathtaking view behind it. "He's in a meeting currently," Taiyang said, "but he wanted you to settle in. Your computer is set up, and there's a list of tasks he'd like you to familiarize yourself with. If you need anything, I'm 2 doors down." Alone in her new office, Naomi sat behind the desk and exhaled slowly. The salary Jinwoo had offered was 3 times what she'd been making at her 2 previous jobs combined. The benefits package included full health insurance for her and her family. It was too generous, far too generous for what amounted to administrative work. She was still reviewing the orientation materials when the door to Jinwoo's office opened and he emerged, followed by 2 older Korean men in expensive suits. All 3 stopped when they saw her through her glass wall. Jinwoo's expression didn't change, but something in his eyes intensified. He said something in Korean to his companions, who both glanced at her with barely concealed curiosity before approaching her office. "Naomi," he opened her door without knocking. "You came. You offered me a job. I accepted. Some people take offers and then disappear. I'm not some people." The corner of Jinwoo's mouth curved, not quite a smile, but close. "No, you're not." He glanced at her computer screen. "Taiyang explained your responsibilities?" "Yes, though I have to say, the salary seems excessive for what you're asking me to do." "I disagree. Your time and competence have value. I'm paying appropriately." "Or you're paying to keep me close." The words slipped out before Naomi could stop them, and she immediately regretted her boldness. But Jinwoo didn't look offended. If anything, he looked pleased by her directness. "Perhaps both things can be true," he said quietly. "I need someone I can trust in this position, and I trust you. That trust is worth the compensation. You don't know me well enough to trust me. I know enough." He moved closer, and Naomi's breath caught at his proximity. "I know you work 2 jobs to support your family. I know you smile at rude customers and never let them see your frustration. I know you take pride in doing things right, even when no one is watching. I know you're loyal, honest, and far too stubborn for your own good. You got all that from watching me serve coffee? I'm observant. You're intense." Also true. Jinwoo held her gaze, and Naomi felt the air between them thicken with unspoken tension. "Your mother's surgery is scheduled for Wednesday. Dr. Kim called to confirm. The prognosis is good. I know. I spoke with her last night. Thank you. Again, I don't know how I'll ever repay you. Work hard. Be honest with me. That's repayment enough." Before Naomi could respond, Taeyang appeared in the doorway. "Jinwoo, the Kozlov situation requires your attention." Something hardened in Jinwoo's expression, a transformation so complete that for a moment Naomi saw someone else entirely, someone dangerous. "I'll handle it." He turned back to Naomi, and just as quickly, the softness returned. "If you need anything, ask Taeyang. Welcome to the team, Naomi." Over the following weeks, Naomi settled into her new role and began to understand the strange duality of Jinwoo's world. On the surface, everything was legitimate. She managed meetings with real estate developers, coordinated with restaurant managers, reviewed import shipment schedules, but there were inconsistencies that nagged at her. Meetings that appeared on the schedule with no details, phone calls Jinwoo took in Korean that made Taeyang's expression darken. Men who visited the office, always respectful, always well-dressed, but who carried themselves with a violence barely contained beneath expensive suits. She never asked directly. Some instinct told her that ignorance might be safer than knowledge, but she couldn't ignore the growing connection between them. Jinwoo found excuses to stop by her office, sometimes with legitimate questions about his schedule, sometimes with coffee, always prepared exactly how she liked it, which meant he'd been paying attention at Billionaire, sometimes with nothing more than a moment of silence, standing at her window, looking out at the city, as if gathering his thoughts. "Do you miss it?" he asked one evening when they were the only ones left in the office. "Billionaire." Naomi looked up from the report she'd been reviewing. Sometimes. Not the exhaustion or the rude customers, but I don't know. There was something simple about it. Straightforward. And this isn't. This feels like I'm only seeing part of the picture, like there's a whole world operating just outside my vision. Jinwoo was quiet for a long moment. Would you want to see that world? If you could. I don't know, Naomi answered honestly. Part of me thinks I already know more than I should, that if I asked the right questions, I'd get answers I'm not prepared for. You're perceptive. Is that a problem? No. Jinwoo turned from the window to look at her directly. It's one of the things I admire most about you. You see clearly but choose your battles wisely. My mama always said, some doors are better left closed until you're ready to walk through them. Your mother is wise. He moved closer to her desk. How is she? Recovering well. Better every day. She's home now doing physical therapy. Marcus is staying with her during the day while I'm here. Naomi smiled. She wants to meet you. Keep saying she needs to thank the man who saved her life. I didn't save her life, the doctors did that. You made it possible. That's the same thing in her book. Naomi studied him. You could come for dinner this weekend, if you want. Nothing fancy. Just my family wanting to express gratitude. Jinwoo's expression shifted through several emotions too quickly for Naomi to track. You want me to meet your family. They want to meet you. There's a difference. And you? Do you want me there? The honest answer was yes, and that terrified her. Somewhere between the hospital and the coffee deliveries and the quiet evenings alone in the office, Jinwoo had become more than her employer. He had become something she couldn't quite define, someone she looked forward to seeing, someone whose rare smiles made her entire day brighter. Yes, she said quietly. I want you there. The intensity that flooded Jinwoo's expression made her breath catch. He rounded her desk in 3 strides, and suddenly he was close, so close she could see the flecks of gold in his dark eyes, could feel the heat radiating from his body. Naomi, his voice was rough, I need you to understand something. When I agreed to help your mother, when I offered you this job, it wasn't entirely altruistic. I know. I don't think you do. His hand rose, and his fingers brushed her cheek with devastating gentleness. I saw you at Billionaire, and I couldn't look away. I've built my entire life on control, on calculated decisions, on never wanting anything I couldn't strategically obtain. Then you smiled at me while pouring coffee, and I wanted. Wanted what? Everything. Your time, your attention, your laughter, your trust. His thumb traced her jawline. You. I wanted you, Naomi. I still do. More than I've wanted anything in my entire life. Naomi's heart hammered against her ribs. You can't just... People don't just say things like that. I do. I don't have time for games or subtlety. Life is too short and too dangerous to pretend I feel less than I do. Dangerous? The word snagged on something in her consciousness. Jinwoo? What exactly do you do? Beyond the legitimate businesses? His hand dropped. Nothing you need to worry about. That's not an answer. It's the only answer I can give you right now. He stepped back, and Naomi felt the loss of his proximity like a physical ache. I won't lie to you, Naomi, but there are truths that would put you at risk. Truths I'm not ready to share because sharing them would make you a target. A target for what? For people who would hurt you to hurt me. The admission hung between them, heavy with implication. Naomi should have been frightened, should have recognized the danger inherent in his words. Instead, all she felt was the weight of his honesty, the knowledge that he was trying to protect her, even as he confessed to wanting her. This is crazy, she whispered. Yes, I barely know you. You know me better than most people ever will. You're my boss. Fire yourself. Despite everything, Naomi laughed, a short, breathless sound. That's not how jobs work. Then quit. I'll still pay for your mother's care. I'll still make sure your family is taken care of. But you can walk away from this, from me, if that's what you need to do. Jinwoo's expression was open, in a way she'd never seen before. Vulnerable and honest. I won't stop you. I won't pursue you. I'll let you go, Naomi, if that's what you truly want. And if I stay, then you stay knowing that I want you, that I'll do everything in my power to win you, that I'm asking you to trust me, even though I can't give you all the answers yet. Naomi stood, moving around the desk until she stood directly in front of him. In her heels, she was nearly his height, able to meet his gaze directly. I should walk away. Every rational part of my brain is screaming at me to walk away. But I don't want to. She reached up, her palm pressing against his chest where she could feel his heart racing, as fast as her own. I don't know what this is, Jinwoo. I don't know if it's smart or safe or sane, but I want to find out. Is that crazy? No. His hand covered hers, holding it against his heart. It's brave. You're brave, Naomi. Braver than you know. I'm terrified. Good. So am I. The vulnerability in his admission cracked something open in Naomi's chest. Here was this powerful man, this dangerous man, if she was reading between the lines correctly, admitting to fear, admitting to wanting her badly enough to be afraid of losing her. Saturday, she said softly. Come for dinner Saturday, 6 o'clock. I'll text you the address. I'll be there. They stood like that for a long moment, hands clasped, eyes locked, the city glittering 30 stories below them. Naomi knew somewhere deep in her bones that this was a turning point, that she was choosing to step through one of those doors her mother had warned her about, not knowing what waited on the other side. But as Jinwoo raised her hand to his lips, pressing a kiss to her palm that sent electricity racing up her arm, Naomi decided that some risks were worth taking, even if they led straight into danger. The problem with falling for Park Jinwoo was that Naomi had done it with her eyes half closed, willfully ignoring the warning signs that should have sent her running. The truth came crashing down on a Tuesday afternoon, 4 weeks after their conversation in her office, 2 weeks after he'd had dinner with her family, charming her mother, bonding with Marcus over basketball, fitting seamlessly into her world while keeping his own carefully hidden. Naomi had left the office early for a dentist appointment, but the dentist's emergency cancellation meant she returned to the building hours before expected. The elevator required Jinwoo's keycard for access, but Tai Yang had given her her own weeks ago, a gesture of trust that now felt ominous. The 30th floor was unusually crowded. Men she'd never seen before lined the hallways, all wearing dark suits, all carrying an edge of violence barely concealed. They watched her pass with cold eyes, and Naomi's instincts screamed danger. She should have left, should have gotten back in the elevator and pretended she'd never seen anything. Instead, she heard raised voices coming from the conference room, Jinwoo's voice speaking in rapid Korean, and another man responding with equal intensity. The words were foreign, but the tone was universal. Anger, challenge, threat. Through the conference room's glass wall, partially obscured by half-drawn blinds, Naomi saw Jinwoo standing at the head of the table. His jacket was off, his sleeves rolled up, and as he gestured sharply at the man across from him, older, white, with cruel eyes, she saw something that made her blood run cold. A gun holstered at Jinwoo's side, and not just on him, on Tai Yang, standing at his shoulder, on the other Korean men arranged around the room like soldiers awaiting orders. This wasn't a business meeting. This was something else entirely. Something dangerous and illegal and so far removed from the world, she knew that Naomi felt reality tilt beneath her feet. Ms. Carter. She spun to find Lee Sang-hoon, Jinwoo's senior advisor, one of the men she'd met at the family dinner, standing behind her. His expression was grim. You shouldn't be here, he said quietly in accented English. What is this? What's happening? A negotiation. Nothing you need to concern yourself with. Negotiation with guns. Lee's jaw tightened. Ms. Carter, Naomi. Jinwoo's voice cut through the hallway, sharp as a blade. He stood in the conference room doorway, and the expression on his face was nothing like the gentle warmth he'd shown her. This was the face of someone who controlled an empire through fear and force. This was the face of a man who had killed. My office. Now. It wasn't a request. Naomi followed him on trembling legs, aware of every eye tracking their movement. The moment Jinwoo's office door closed behind them, she turned on him. What the hell is going on out there? Something you shouldn't have seen. Well, I did see it. So explain it to me. Jinwoo's hands flexed at his sides, the only sign of tension in his otherwise controlled demeanor. I told you there were parts of my life I kept separate. Parts that would put you at risk. You didn't tell me you were a criminal. The word hung between them, ugly and accusatory. Jinwoo didn't flinch. No, I didn't. Why not? Because I wanted you in my life. And I knew that if you understood what I truly was, you'd run. And I'm selfish enough that I wanted these months with you, Naomi, even knowing they might be all I'd ever get. These months? Anger flared hot in her chest. You've been lying to me this entire time, making me feel... She cut herself off, unable to finish the sentence. Feel what? Jinwoo stepped closer. Say it, Naomi. Making you feel what? Safe. The word burst out of her. You made me feel safe. Protected. Like you were someone I could trust. And all this time you've been... She gestured helplessly toward the door. What are you, Jinwoo? Drug dealer? Arms trader? What? I run an organization. We have interests in various areas, some legal, many not. I inherited the position from my father, who inherited it from his father. It's not something I can simply walk away from. You're Korean Mafia. It wasn't a question. Yes. The confirmation hit her like a physical blow. Oh my God. I've never lied to you, Jinwoo said quietly. I've withheld information, yes, but everything I've said to you has been true. My feelings for you, those are real, Naomi. The realest thing in my entire life. Don't. She held up a hand. Don't try to make this romantic. You've been using me. I've never used you. Then what do you call this? Hiring me, paying for my mother's surgery, inserting yourself into my life. I call it falling in love with you. Naomi's breath caught. Jinwoo stood before her, his guard completely down, his expression raw with emotion she'd never seen him display. I love you, Naomi. I've loved you since you served me coffee with that tired smile and treated me like I was just another customer instead of someone to fear. I've loved you through every conversation, every laugh, every moment you've let me into your world. And yes, I kept secrets. Yes, I protected you from truths that would put you in danger. But I've never, not for 1 second, used you. How can I believe that? How can I believe anything you say now? Because you know me. He moved closer, and despite her anger, despite her fear, Naomi didn't step back. You know who I am when it's just us. You know how I am with your mother, with Marcus. You know how I look at you, how I touch you. That's real, Naomi. Everything else is business, survival, legacy, but you're real. I can't do this. Naomi's voice cracked. I can't be with someone who lives like this. What happens when your enemies find out about me? When they decide I'm a weakness they can exploit. I would never let anyone hurt you. You can't promise that. I can, and I do. Jinwoo's intensity blazed like fire. I will burn this entire city down before I let anyone touch you. I will end anyone who even thinks about using you against me. You want to know what I am, Naomi? I'm dangerous. I'm violent. I've done things that would horrify you. But I am also yours, completely and utterly, and I will protect you with everything I have. Tears burned Naomi's eyes. This is insane. I know. I should leave. I should quit and walk out of here and never see you again. I know. Jinwoo's hand rose, cupping her face with devastating gentleness. But you won't, because you feel this too. Whatever this is between us, you feel it as strongly as I do. That doesn't make it right. No, but it makes it real. Naomi closed her eyes, leaning into his touch despite everything. He was right. God help her, he was right. She did feel it, had felt it from the beginning, that inexplicable pull toward him. She'd tried to rationalize it as gratitude, or attraction, or simple loneliness. But it was more than any of those things. It was love. Terrifying, irrational, completely inconvenient love. I need time, she whispered, to think, to process this. Take all the time you need. I'm not going anywhere. And the job? Yours, if you want it. And if you don't, I'll still take care of your mother's medical bills. I meant what I said, Naomi. I won't use money to trap you here. She opened her eyes to find him watching her with such raw vulnerability that it hurt to look at. What if I can't accept this? What if I can't be with someone who lives in your world? Then I'll let you go. His voice was steady, but she saw the pain in his eyes. I'll hate it. It'll destroy me. But I'll let you go because that's what love means. Wanting your happiness more than my own. Before Naomi could respond, Tae-Yang's voice came through Jinwoo's phone intercom. Jinwoo, the Kozlov problem has escalated. We need you. Jinwoo's expression hardened back into the dangerous mask she'd seen in the conference room, but when he looked at Naomi, some of the softness remained. I have to handle this. Will you wait for me? She should say no. Should tell him she was leaving and never coming back. Instead, she heard herself say, "I'll be in my office." Something like relief flooded his face. He pressed a kiss to her forehead, chaste and sweet, and completely at odds with the violence waiting for him outside that door before stepping away. "This isn't over," he said. "No," Naomi agreed. "It isn't." Alone in her office, Naomi sank into her chair and tried to organize her chaotic thoughts. Jin-woo was a criminal. A dangerous man involved in illegal operations she couldn't even begin to understand. Being with him would put her at risk, would put her family at risk, but he'd also saved her mother's life, had treated her with respect and tenderness, had fallen in love with her when he could have had anyone. Her phone buzzed with a text from her mother. "How's your day going, baby? Feeling so good lately. That medicine Dr. Kim prescribed is working wonders." Medicine that Gloria could only afford because of Jin-woo. A surgery she'd only survived because of Jin-woo. A future she had because of Jin-woo. Naomi looked out at the city, watching the sun sink toward the horizon, painting the sky in shades of orange and gold. Somewhere in this city, Jin-woo was handling his Kozlov problem, probably with violence, possibly with death. He was doing things she didn't want to know about, protecting interests she didn't fully understand. But he was also the man who had held her hand in the hospital, who had charmed her mother with stories about his own grandmother in Seoul, who had taught Marcus a Korean card game and laughed when the teenager beat him 3 times in a row, who looked at Naomi like she was the sun his entire world orbited around. How could someone be both those things? How could she love someone who was both those things? She didn't have an answer. Not yet. But as the sky darkened and the city lights began to glow, Naomi made a decision. She would stay. She would wait for Jin-woo to return, and she would demand the complete truth, all of it, no matter how dark or dangerous, because if she was going to risk her heart on Park Jin-woo, she needed to know exactly what she was risking it for. Jin-woo returned to the office at 2 in the morning, his knuckles bruised and his shirt stained with blood that Naomi hoped wasn't his own. She'd waited as promised, working through files and reports to keep her hands busy while her mind spun in circles. When he walked into her office, she saw the surprise on his face that she was still there. "You waited. I said I would." Naomi stood. "Is it handled? Your Kozlov problem?" "Yes." His voice was flat, emotionless, the voice of someone compartmentalizing violence. "He won't be a problem anymore." "Did you kill him?" "Do you really want to know the answer to that?" "Yes. If we're going to do this, if I'm going to even consider staying, I need to know the truth, all of it." Jin-woo studied her for a long moment, then nodded slowly. "No, I didn't kill him, but I made it very clear that any further threats against my interests would result in consequences he wouldn't survive. Viktor Kozlov is ambitious but not stupid. He'll back down. Your interests, does that include me now? You've been my interest since the moment we met." Jin-woo crossed to her, but stopped a few feet away, giving her space. "He made threats against you, Naomi. Said that you were my weakness, that hurting you would bring me to my knees." Ice flooded Naomi's veins. And I explained in terms he couldn't misunderstand, that touching you would be the last mistake he ever made, that I would dismantle his entire organization, kill everyone he loved, and make sure his name was erased from this city. Jin-woo's expression was terrible in its intensity. "No one threatens you, no one." "Jesus, Jin-woo. You wanted the truth." "I did. I do." Naomi wrapped her arms around herself. "Tell me the rest. I need to understand what your life actually looks like." So he told her. Not everything, some details were too dark, too violent to share, but enough. He told her about the organization his grandfather had founded when he immigrated to New York in the 1970s, how it had grown from protecting Korean immigrants to controlling territory and interests across the city. He told her about the codes of honor they lived by, the debts and loyalties that bound them. He told her about the violence, not glorifying it, but not hiding from it either. "I've killed people," he said quietly. "Not often, not unless absolutely necessary, but I've done it. I've ordered things done that would make you sick. I operate in a world where mercy is weakness and hesitation is death." "Then why me?" Naomi asked. "Why pursue someone like me when you live like that?" "Because you reminded me I'm still human." Jinwoo moved closer. Because when I'm with you, I'm not Park Jinwoo, head of the organization. I'm just Jinwoo, a man who wants simple things, your laugh, your touch, your presence in my life. You make me want to be better than I am. I can't change you. I'm not asking you to. I'm asking you to accept me as I am, knowing that I will do everything in my power to keep you separate from the darkness. You'll never be involved in that side of my life, Naomi. You'll never see it, never touch it. I'll build walls around you so high that nothing can reach you. Except you've already proven that's impossible. Kozlov found out about me. Because I was careless. Because I let myself be seen with you in public before I had properly established protection. It won't happen again. Naomi laughed without humor. So what? I'm supposed to be a secret, hidden away. No, you're supposed to be so obviously under my protection that no one would dare touch you. There's a difference. She turned to look out the window at the sleeping city. This is insane. I should be running as fast as I can. But you're not. Jinwoo's voice came from directly behind her, and she felt the warmth of him even though he wasn't touching her. Why? Because I'm in love with you too, Naomi admitted. God help me. I'm in love with you. I don't know when it happened or how, but somewhere between the coffee and the hospital and the dinners with my family, I fell for you. Even knowing this is dangerous, even knowing I should walk away. Jinwoo's arms wrapped around her from behind, pulling her back against his chest. Naomi felt his heart racing, felt the tension in his body slowly releasing. Say it again, he breathed against her ear. I love you. Again. I love you, Park Jinwoo, even though you're a criminal, even though this is crazy. I love you. He turned her in his arms, and the expression on his face was raw with emotion. I will spend every day for the rest of my life making sure you never regret those words. I promise you, Naomi, you will be safe. Your family will be safe. I'll protect you with everything I have. And if something happens to you, if your enemies, then Tai Yang has instructions. Your family will be taken care of. You'll have enough money to never worry again. But nothing will happen to me, because now I have something worth staying alive for. Before Naomi could respond, Jinwoo's mouth claimed hers in a kiss that was fierce and desperate and full of everything they'd been holding back for months. Naomi melted into him, her hands fisting in his shirt, all rational thought dissolving under the onslaught of sensation. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Jinwoo rested his forehead against hers. Come home with me, he said. Not for, I just want you close. Want to hold you and know you're real and mine. I'm yours? If you'll have me. If you can accept what I am. Naomi thought about her mother, recovering because of him. About Marcus thriving in school because financial pressure had been lifted. About the life she could have. Complicated and dangerous, yes, but also full of passion and protection and a love so intense it terrified her. I can accept it, she said, but I have conditions. Anything. You don't hide things from me anymore. I don't need details about your operations, but I need honesty. If something threatens me or my family, I need to know. Agreed. And my family stays completely separate from your business. They never get pulled into that world. They won't. You have my word. And if this gets too dangerous, if loving you puts me or them at real risk, you'll let me go. You won't fight me, or try to keep me against my better judgment. This one made him hesitate. I'll let you go, he finally said, but I'll make sure you're protected for the rest of your life. Even if you leave me, Naomi, I'll keep you safe. That's all I can ask. She cupped his face, studying the features she'd memorized over months of stolen glances. Take me home, Jinwoo. The penthouse he brought her to was in Tribeca, all floor-to-ceiling windows and modern luxury, but somehow still warm, personal. He poured her wine and they sat on his couch watching the city lights, and for the first time, Naomi felt the fear begin to ease. What happens now? She asked. Now, I make you happy. Jinwoo pulled her closer. Now we figure out how to build a life together. Now I show you that love can exist even in darkness, that beauty can grow even in dangerous soil. That's very poetic for a criminal. My grandmother was a poet. She taught me that violence and beauty aren't opposites. They're two sides of the same coin. Life and death, creation and destruction, all intertwined. Tell me about her. So he did. And as Jin Woo talked about his grandmother in Seoul, about growing up between two worlds, about the weight of legacy and duty, Naomi understood him better. Understood that he hadn't chosen this life so much as it had chosen him, but he had chosen her, deliberately, completely, irrevocably. Later, as dawn began to paint the sky pink and gold, Jin Woo walked her to his guest room, true to his word about not assuming intimacy, but paused at the door. Naomi, when Kozlov threatened you, when he said you were my weakness, do you know what I realized? What? He was right. You are my weakness, but you're also my greatest strength, because now I have something worth protecting, someone worth being better for, worth staying alive for. No pressure, she said with a small smile. I'm serious. You've changed everything for me. In my world we have a saying, Sarang hamyon alge dweyo. When you love someone, you will know. I know, Naomi. I know you're the one I'm meant to protect, to cherish, to spend my life with. Tears pricked her eyes. Say it in English. I love you. You're mine, and I'm yours, and nothing in this world will change that. You're mine, and I'm yours. She pretended to consider it. That sounds suspiciously like something a possessive criminal would say. Good thing you're in love with a possessive criminal, then. Naomi laughed, real and genuine, and pulled him down for another kiss. Yeah, good thing. 3 months later, on a Saturday morning, Naomi stood in Jin Woo's kitchen making breakfast when her phone rang. The number was unknown, but something made her answer. Miss Carter, this is James Pemberton. I'm an attorney representing Richard Pemberton III. We need to discuss a matter involving you and my client. Naomi's hand tightened on the phone. I don't know what you're talking about. I think you do. My client has decided to press charges against you for assault during an incident at Bella Notte restaurant. We also intend to pursue civil damages for emotional distress and damage to his reputation. That's insane. I didn't... Save your denials for court, Ms. Carter. We have witnesses who will testify that you provoked him, that you were incompetent and hostile. My client is a respected businessman and he won't allow... Let me stop you right there. Naomi's voice was ice. Your client spit on me. He assaulted me in front of dozens of witnesses because I was 30 seconds slow with his appetizer. And if he wants to press charges, I'd be happy to countersue for assault, emotional distress, and about a dozen other things. You can't possibly afford... I don't need to afford anything. I have excellent legal representation. She thought of Lee Sang-hoon, who had mentioned casually last week that the organization kept several top law firms on retainer. So you tell your client to bring it on. I'd love to see him try to explain to a judge why he thought it was appropriate to spit on a black woman for doing her job. There was a pause. I see. Well, I'll relay your response to Mr. Pemberton. You do that. And James? Tell your father that the woman he spit on is under the protection of Park Jin-woo. See how eager he is to continue this after that. She ended the call and found Jin-woo standing in the doorway, watching her with an expression of fierce pride. I was going to handle Pemberton for you, he said, but I think you just handled him better than I could have. I don't need you to fight all my battles. I know. That's one of the things I love most about you. He crossed to her, pulling her into his arms. But if he does continue this, if he doesn't back down after that threat, then we'll handle it together, legally first. Your way only if necessary. You're learning. I'm adapting. Jin-woo kissed her softly. You're incredible. Later that day, when her mother asked how she was really doing, Gloria Carter had a mother's intuition about these things. Naomi gave her an honest answer. I'm happy, Mama, really happy. Jin-woo treats me like I'm precious, like I'm something worth protecting and cherishing. And yes, his life is complicated, but he keeps me separate from that, keeps us safe. And you love him? So much it scares me sometimes. Gloria nodded slowly. Your daddy used to say that real love should scare you a little, because it means you've given someone the power to destroy you, and you're trusting them not to. That's brave, baby. That's real. I think Daddy would have liked him, despite everything. I think so too. That boy looks at you like you hung the moon. Whatever else he is, he loves you. I can see it. As Naomi left her mother's apartment that evening, Marcus walked her to her car. Jin-woo's car, really, which he'd insisted she use, complete with driver for her protection. You happy, sis? Her brother asked. Yeah, I really am. Then I'm happy for you. Jinwoo's intense, but he's good people. Takes care of you, that's all I care about. When did you get so wise? Had a good example. Marcus hugged her. Love you, Naomi. Thanks for everything you've done for me and Mom. I know it wasn't easy, and I know you sacrificed a lot. I'm gonna make you proud. Going to finish college, get a good job, take care of Mom so you don't have to worry. I'm already proud of you, Marcus. So proud. That night, curled up beside Jinwoo in his bed, their bed now since she'd officially moved in 2 weeks ago, Naomi reflected on how much her life had changed in less than a year. What are you thinking about? Jinwoo asked, his fingers tracing lazy patterns on her shoulder. How crazy this all is. How I went from serving you coffee to living in your penthouse. How everything changed because you walked into Billionaire. Best decision I ever made. You needed coffee. You didn't decide to fall in love. Didn't I? Jinwoo rolled to face her. I could have gone to any restaurant in the city, but I'd heard about this place from one of my associates. Heard they had an exceptional waitress who treated everyone with kindness, no matter how they treated her. I went there looking for you, Naomi. I found you, and I decided right then that you were going to be mine. That's very presumptuous. I'm a presumptuous man. He kissed her forehead, her nose, her lips. But I was right. You are mine, just like I'm yours. You're mine and I'm yours, Naomi repeated, smiling against his mouth. I like the sound of that. Good. Because I plan to spend the rest of our lives proving it to you. Outside, the city glittered with a million lights. Somewhere in that city, threats still existed. Rivals plotted, dangers lurked. But inside Jinwoo's penthouse, wrapped in his arms, Naomi felt safer than she'd ever felt in her life. She had fallen in love with a dangerous man, a criminal, someone who lived in shadows and operated by codes she didn't fully understand. But he loved her back with an intensity that burned away every doubt. He protected her fiercely, cherished her completely, gave her a life she'd never imagined possible. And if loving Park Jinwoo meant accepting the darkness along with the light, meant trusting him to keep her safe while he navigated his dangerous world, meant building a life on the foundation of complicated truth, well, Naomi had never been one to choose the easy path anyway. She chose love, she chose him. She chose them, and that choice, terrifying and exhilarating and absolutely right, would define the rest of her life. Years had passed since the morning Richard Pemberton III had made the worst mistake of his life. Naomi stood at the floor-to-ceiling windows of their new home in the Hamptons, watching the ocean crash against the shore. Behind her, she heard the sound of laughter, deep and rich and full of joy. Mama, Uncle Marcus says Daddy is cheating at cards again. She turned to see their daughter, 5 years old, all long limbs and natural curls, and Jinwoo's intense dark eyes, racing into the room. Jinna Park was named for her father and her maternal grandmother, a perfect blend of both families. Your uncle is a sore loser, Jinwoo called from the living room, where he and Marcus were indeed engaged in another competitive card game. Tell him to accept defeat gracefully. I would if you weren't palming cards, Marcus shot back, laughing. Naomi smiled, watching her husband and brother bicker like children. Gloria sat in the comfortable armchair nearby, fully recovered from her surgery years ago, knitting something small and pink, probably another gift for Jinna. The life they'd built was unexpected, complicated, sometimes still dangerous, though Jinwoo had gradually transitioned the organization toward more legitimate operations, citing his daughter as motivation to clean up the family business. I want her to be proud of her father, he told Naomi during her pregnancy. Not afraid of him. Tai Yang, now Jinna's devoted godfather, had supported the transition along with Lee Sang-hoon and the other senior members. The organization still existed, still operated in grey areas, but the worst of the violence had faded. Jinwoo's reputation alone was enough to keep most threats at bay. As for Richard Pemberton III, he'd dropped all charges and legal threats within 24 hours of learning Naomi's connection to Jinwoo. He'd also issued a public apology and made a substantial donation to organizations fighting racism in the service industry. Whether the apology was genuine or self-preservation didn't matter to Naomi. She'd moved past that moment, though she'd never forgotten it. That incident had been the catalyst for everything that came after. If Pemberton hadn't been cruel, If he hadn't pushed Naomi to finally call Jin Woo, if that moment of crisis hadn't forced them both to confront their feelings, they might have continued dancing around each other indefinitely. Sometimes the worst moments led to the best outcomes. "Mama," Jinnah tugged on her hand. "Daddy says we can go to the beach before dinner. Can we, please?" "Of course, baby. Go tell everyone to get ready." As her daughter raced off, Jin Woo appeared at Naomi's side, sliding his arms around her waist and pulling her back against his chest, the same way he had that night in his office years ago when she'd first admitted she loved him. "Happy?" he murmured against her ear. "Incredibly. No regrets? Not a single one." It was true. The path they'd walked had been complicated and sometimes frightening, but it had led them here, to this life, this family, this love that had grown stronger with each passing year. Jin Woo turned her in his arms, cupping her face with familiar gentleness. "I love you, Naomi Park. More today than yesterday. Less than I'll love you tomorrow." That's still very poetic for a criminal. Reformed criminal, he corrected with a smile. Mostly reformed. Mostly? Some habits are hard to break. But for you, Jinnah, I'd break every habit I have. Through the windows, Naomi could see the sun beginning to set, painting the sky in shades of orange and gold. Her mother's laughter drifted from the other room, mixed with Marcus's and Jinnah's excited chatter about building sandcastles. This was her life now, built on love and trust, and the choice she'd made years ago to take a chance on an intense man who'd walked into a restaurant and decided she was going to be his. "You're mine and I'm yours," Naomi whispered, echoing the words that had become their private vow. "Always," Jin Woo replied, "in this life and every life after. You're mine, Naomi, and I'm yours. Nothing will ever change that." As they stood wrapped in each other's arms, surrounded by family and love and the life they'd built together, Naomi knew he was right. Some love stories began with chance meetings, others with dramatic rescues or grand gestures. Theirs had begun with coffee and kindness, had survived revelation and danger, and had grown into something permanent and precious. The billionaire who had tried to break her had only made her stronger. The criminal who had loved her had given her everything. And Naomi Carter, now Naomi Park, had found her happily ever after in the most unexpected place, in the arms of the most dangerous man in New York, who had turned out to be the safest place she'd ever known.